But Martin, now you have a presentation in terms of on the funding, one of the hot button issues that we've seen there. Do you want to take it away?
A couple of tough acts to follow on this lovely evening with you all, guys. I don't know how I'm going to top everyone else who's spoken so far, but I'll do my best. I mean, we are talking about everybody's favorite thing when it comes to college, and that, of course, is the funding and the fees. But not to worry, we are going to break down some of the stereotypes associated with postgraduate. Yes, sometimes the fees are bigger than undergraduate, but not to worry, there are plenty of resources available to help you fund your postgrad journey, okay? And we're going to look at 5 main funding opportunities for your postgraduate experience. Firstly, we're going to look at the Postgraduate Student Grant Scheme, SUSI, which I know a number of you queried about as well. Another sometimes lesser known relief scheme is the tax relief scheme set up by the Irish Revenue Services for postgraduate students. It'd be a bit rude of us, obviously, on our DCU information night, not to mention the financial supports that we offer as well to our prospective students. As well as that, for anyone who's on the call who is maybe an industry professional looking to come back to postgraduate education to upskill and progress in their career, we're going to talk about how you can maybe get an employer contribution towards your studies. And lastly, we're going to look at education loans as well. So option 1, guys, the Postgraduate Student Grant Scheme, SUSI. For any of you who are on that don't know who SUSI are essentially Ireland's national awarding authority for further and higher education grants. Now, when it comes to postgraduate grants that SUSI offer, they offer 2 main grants. They'll offer the fees grant and they'll offer the maintenance grant. The maximum amount on the fee grant is €4,000. The maximum amount on a fee and maintenance grant is €6,270. Now, SUSI, just to note, is means tested, and there are a couple of qualifiers for this grant that people will have to meet. One such is your nationality condition. So obviously it is an Irish body. You have to be either Irish, an EU citizen, an EEA, UK or Swiss national. If you're outside of the European Union or outside these other jurisdictions, you have to hold an immigration status or leave to remain permission from the Department of Justice. You also naturally would have to satisfy a residency condition. So how it stands currently, you have to be in one of the following domiciles. So the Irish state, the EU, the EEA, the UK, the Swiss frontier. Within the last in the last 5 years, you have to be a resident in these areas for at least 3 years. It's also means tested. So what we mean when we say that is the allocation of the grant is based on things like your family's gross income and circumstances. So for some of you, you might be in the family home. There might be only one income coming in. There might be a number of people that are dependent on that income. It might be a lower income threshold. It might be a higher income threshold. All these criteria are what SUSI judged the allocation of the grant on. The 4th main qualifier is obviously it has to be an approved course of study. You have to be at least attending an approved course of study in Ireland for a minimum 1 year in duration. Sadly, they're not going to give you $6,000 for just 6 months of study, guys. It's not going to work that way, unfortunately. Of course, as well, the course has to be shown as an area of progression. So you must be able to be showing that this course is a progression level on something that you've done previously. So prime example, when applying for the PG grant, if you've done an undergraduate degree, going on to the postgraduate degree is a step up in qualification. So that would be one such area where it will be satisfied. And then lastly, obviously, there's the max period of grant funding. You can't get grants forever, more's the pity. But when you're doing your postgraduate studies, there is a maximum period of 4 years. You want to look at any of this in more detail, we obviously do have the link to SUSI's website there. You can go on and you can look at all these criteria and qualifiers in a bit more detail. Your option 2 then is your postgraduate tax relief scheme. Unlike option 1 with SUSI, this is not means tested. So with this, the maximum amount of fees, this includes obviously the student contribution, that you can qualify for tax relief is €7,000 per person, per academic course, per academic year. And as it currently stands, the tax relief is at a standard rate of 20%, beg your pardon. Each claim then is obviously subject to a single disregard amount. So what we mean by that is the first maybe €3,000 of a full-time fee or the first €1,500 of a part-time fee each tax year set by revenue is disregarded. So it's calculated on a 20% of the €7,000 tax relief minus the disregard amount. I know that makes absolutely no sense to some people right now, but this is why we have some of our examples. So our good friend Peter here, he's a full-time postgraduate student. His course fees are €11,000. So as we've mentioned, the maximum tax relief is up to €7,000. We then take away the disregard rate, which is 3,000, which leaves them with 4,000 and an amount that is eligible for rebate. Once you calculate it then with the tax relief rate, the total tax refund is €800. For Sarah then, Sarah is our part-time postgraduate student. Her course fees are €7,500. So again, we look at it from the maximum tax relief of 7,000, we minus the disregard rate, the first 1,500 of the course. The amount eligible then for rebate is 5,500. And then when you calculate the tax relief rate, she's entitled to a total tax refund of €1,100. There is obviously more detail on this on the Irish Revenue Services. So Ross, if you go onto Ross, they'll give you detailed examples. They'll give you detailed information on all this. Just for the purposes of the presentation, we wanted to make you aware of the scheme as well and how it can benefit you in the long term. Now, option 3, obviously we have to mention what DCU can offer you in financial supports. So for anyone who's watching this evening that might be a DCU undergraduate student who is thinking of obviously taking up their masters with DCU, you have open to you the DCU reduced master's fee discount. So this is an alumni benefit scheme open to all DCU graduates or outgoing final year students. It gives you a 10% reduction in your fees. It kicks in the second semester when you're paying your second installment. When the pot noodle budget is starting to stretch a bit thin, you get that 10% discount when you're due to pay your second installment. And it's open for your first year of full-time or part-time studies in a top master's program. Now, if you've been applying, let's say, for a master's in 2024 and you're applying for it now, you'll be contacted. You'll get a Christmas present from DCU in 2023. December 2023 is when you'll be confirmed if you're eligible. For more details, you can just check out our website there at the URL link that's provided. Obviously, like most universities, we do offer scholarships and awards. So our sports scholarship, obviously, the eligibility there is your sport has to be represented by Sport Ireland, and there has to be a club established here in DCU, obviously. So obviously, one of the most instantly recognizable sports is obviously GAA. So there's a GAA scholarship, and that's awarded up to €2,000 towards your academic studies. Obviously, all of our faculties will have academic scholarships as well. So a prime example here is our 30% club. This is an academic scholarship ran by the Faculty of Engineering and Computing and the DCU Business School. The whole aim of this scholarship is to see 30% more female representation in areas like the board of directors, in management structures, in positions of authority across businesses, across industry. So it's open to women looking to do part-time postgraduate courses in these faculties, and it awards up to €10,000. So that's just a rough example of some of the scholarships that we would offer. You can check every faculty's individual web pages, and they'll be able to give you a full breakdown of all scholarships on offer as well. We do also, of course, have our DCU Student Assistant Fund. So this is ran by Student Support and Development. They operate this fund to provide financial support to students who might be, struggling a little bit in the short term or long term with some of the finances associated with higher education. Now, sadly, it isn't open currently to international or non-EU fee-paying students, but not to worry. We do have a couple of sources of finance for you outside of that. So for DCU scholarships and awards for international and non-EU students, there's obviously the DCU Merit Scholarships, which Bridget mentioned earlier. You're automatically considered for a scholarship when you apply for DCU postgrad as a non-EU student. There's also a number of academic scholarships. So you would obviously need to check the individual faculty websites for full details, but some examples would include the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. There's a bursary there of up to €2,000. We also have the DCU University of Sanctuary scholarships. These are scholarships awarded to people who are coming to Ireland under refugee or migrant status, and this operates on a free fees initiative as well. So just two examples, but you can check out obviously our postgraduate hub as well, which gives a full list of all funding available to all students, EU and non-EU, for their studies as well. Also, some other programs that are accepted by DCU. So the Ireland Fellows Programme. This is basically an Irish government initiative aimed for students that come from developing countries to allow them to undertake full-time study at master's level at an Irish higher level institution. So prime example, DCU. The courses will obviously have to be those that focus with Irish Aid's development objectives, but at the same time, they do fully support anyone trying to uptake master's level education. We also obviously have the Irish government scholarships. The Irish government offers an international education scholarship, and this will pay your fees in full, and it can give you up to €10,000 funding for your living expenses as well. You can check both of these out online at their respective websites as well. So irishaidfellowship.ie and obviously the Higher Education Authority.ie for the Government of Ireland scholarship as well. Now, guys, option 4 is for anyone who is currently an industry professional wanting to come back to third level and upskill themselves to maybe progress a bit more in their career. So most workplaces understand the importance and benefit of lifelong learning. If you invest in your staff, you'll have a more engaged workforce, you'll have a more, specialized and knowledgeable workforce that will increase retention and drop down the turnover rate as well. If you are in employment, check with your HR department to see if they currently give any sort of contribution towards a postgraduate study program. Now, this can sometimes be a bit of a delicate dance. So my advice to you would be, do it from the following sort of perspective. Firstly, do your research. Look at what the funding opportunities are currently in your organization. Look, secondly, at who are the decision makers. Is it your line manager? Is it learning and development? Is it employee engagement? Are the funding opportunities, an employee learning fund? Is it a case-by-case basis? Look at these in detail. There could already be a training budget and an employee development strategy in place that you're just not aware of, but make sure you arm yourself with that information before approaching your employer. Knowledge is power, as they say. And then if you've looked at all these and you found maybe there aren't funding opportunities or there isn't a training budget, this is where you need to form your business case. So you list what you want to study, whether it's like Brianna, the MSc in Human Resource Management. You want to progress further within the human resource management space. You want to study that. Why? Because you want to progress to managerial level within the company. The cost associated with the course. So you would explain the fees. But this has to be a give and take. It can't just be sponsor me to do my master's because I want to do it. It's a case of if you invest in me as my employer, the benefit you will get is that I'll be more engaged. I'll be more of an in-depth expert in the subject area that we practice in. I'll be able to contribute more to the business, new ideas. The education I've had will expand my horizons, maybe help me look at problems in our company from a different perspective. Focus as well on maybe how the course will improve your job performance as it stands. Will there be certain modules that will help you in your day-to-day functioning in the role? That kind of thing. Also look at the logistics of it. Look at the start date of the course. Do you need to have flexible working hours? Is it a busy time of year where maybe you're generating new contracts for staff? You're looking after payroll. Look at all these things. Bring a fully comprehensive case to your employer in order to get the maximum employer contribution would be our advice. If anyone has any qualms about this or queries, Postgraduate Recruitment do offer a service where we can help you with a PowerPoint presentation on making a business case to your employer on why they should sponsor you to do a postgrad journey with DCU. So all you need to do is contact us. My contact information is obviously on the registration page of this event. So feel free to reach out to me afterwards if it's something you're interested in. And lastly, guys, but by no means least, you have the education loan option. So this is sort of more common knowledge. You can apply obviously to a bank or to a credit union to look at an education loan. Our advice would always be to shop around, look to see what institutions offer you the most competitive rates. And at all times, we'd ask you to speak to a student advisor. That's what we recommend. The people who are student advisors in these local institutions will be able to offer you the best forms of advice on your loans, on interest rates, on what's the best payment plan for you. But guys, in wrapping up, I'd like to thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for attending the event, and I'd like to hand you back to Richard.